Well, hey halflings, welcome back to story time. It's so good to have you again. Today we're going to read kind of a different kind of story that really makes us think. It's called A Different Pond, and it is written by Bao Phi and illustrated by Tai Bui. And if I'm mispronouncing those and you know how to pronounce them, please educate me. But the two vocabulary words that I picked out, I picked them out because they're definitions that explain these people that we're going to read about. So the first word is immigrant, and the second one is a refugee, and I'll explain them in just a minute. I picked those words because the father and the mother in this story, I believe, are either immigrants or refugees. It didn't define them or say it directly, but just different hints in the story tell me that they're not originally from America, but they moved here. So anyways, an immigrant is simply somebody who has moved from outside of the United States of America to here, and they live here permanently. A refugee is kind of like an immigrant, but they are more so forced to leave their country because of it not being safe enough for them to live there. So they often are refugees to safer countries just until their country is safe enough to go back to. So those are big words, I know, so thank you for hanging in there with me and letting me explain them, but I think it's very important to talk about this kind of stuff. So, yeah, those are our vocabulary words, so let's start reading our story about immigrant or refugee family. Okay, so once again we have A Different Pond, written by Bao Phi and illustrated by Tai Bui. Once again, if I'm mispronouncing these, please educate me. I would love to learn the real pronunciations. So look at all of these things. A Different Pond, our title page. And as you can see, I got this book at the Grand Rapids Public Library. I'm gonna have to return it. Dad wakes me quietly so Mom can keep sleeping. It will be hours before the sun comes up. Look, he's going, shh, don't wake your mom. In the kitchen, the bare bulb is burning. Dad has been up for a while making sandwiches and packing the car. Can I help, I ask. Sure, my dad whispers and hands me the tackle box. This is a tackle box. This is where you keep all sorts of your fishing stuff. The street lights look brighter, and the roads aren't so busy before the sun comes up. Dad turns on the heater and tells me stories. A kid at my school said my dad's English sounds like a thick, dirty river, but to me, his English sounds like gentle rain. We stop at the bait store on Lake Street. It always seems to be open. You're here early today, the bait man says. I got a second job, my dad explains. I have to work this morning. On a Saturday? The bait man asks. My dad nods. I feel the bag of minnows move. They swim like silver arrows in my hands. Look, here they all are in that bag. But what they were talking about up here, he has to have a second job because things are so expensive in America that he has to have 2 jobs in order to support his family. And that's kind of what immigrants and refugees go through when they come to America. It's still dark when we get to the pond. We park the car and climb over the divider between the road and the trees. My dad holds my hand and walks ahead through the tangle and scrub. Step where I step, he says. I am thinking about what Dad told the bait man. If you got another job, why do we still have to fish for food, I ask. Everything in America costs a lot of money, he explains. I feel calluses on his hands when he squeezes mine. It's probably a good sign that his dad is a hard worker. Sometimes a Hmong man is at the pond. He speaks English like my dad and likes to tell funny jokes. There he is. Sometimes there is a black man there too. He shows me his colorful lure collection. Gives him a high five. This time it is just me and my dad. It is a little bit cold. I rub my hands together, yawn, and look up to see faint stars like freckles. There, look at all the stars. It is so early in the morning. They have to go fishing. As Dad sets up in a clearing, I gather small, thin twigs for a fire. They need to be dry and clean. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 10 more for later. I put some rocks in a circle and set up the twigs. Like a volcano, Dad reminds me. I set one end of each twig down, the other up, leaning them in so they rest against each other and hold each other up. I get it to light with just one match. Dad nods. There's their fire. You want to put a minnow on the hook? Dad asks. I want to help, but I shake my head no. I don't want to hurt that little fish, even if I know it's about to be eaten by a bigger one. My dad smiles. He isn't upset with me. They're fishing under a big old bridge, and there's the moon. And it looks like it's about fall time here, because this tree doesn't have any leaves, and it looks like it just dropped its leaves. Dad hands me a sandwich, cold bologna between 2 pieces of bread. Careful of the spicy stuff, he says. There's half a peppercorn like a moon split in 2, studded into the meat. I used to fish by a pond like this one when I was a boy in Vietnam, Dad says, biting into his sandwich. With your brother, I ask. He nods, then looks away. Dad tells me about the war, but only sometimes. He and his brother fought side by side. One day his brother didn't come home. And that makes me think they might be refugees, because it sounds like there's war in Vietnam when this book is taking place. So they probably had to leave their country to be safe while the war was going on. The bobber dips in the dark and Dad pulls. Got one, he says, almost shouting. A crappie, and soon another. Can I help, I ask. He nods, and I use 2 hands to help guide the fish into the bucket. The fish feels slimy and rough at the same time. Dad laughs at the funny face I make. Here's his funny face. Here's their big old fish that they caught. Dad smiles, his teeth broken and white in the dark, because we have a few fish and he knows we will eat tonight. Time to go home. Dad must get ready for work. He washes his hands with a small nub of green and white soap. Then I do the same. I look at the trees as we walk back to the car. I wonder what the trees look like at that other pond in the country my dad comes from. By the time we get home, the sunlight coming through the windows is just a faint tint blue and gray instead of gold. At home, Mom looks tired, but she smiles at the fish in the big white bucket. My dad changes his clothes and gets ready to go to work. He pats me on the back and says to Mom, "Our boy did a good job with the fire today." "You learn so quickly," Mom says. Then she asks me to help with the fish before she has to go to work too. So she has to work, and then his dad has to work 2 jobs just to support their family. I'm sad that she and Dad must leave, but not too sad. I know that later on they will both come home. Look after your baby brother, Mom reminds my brothers and sisters. She means me. Then she gets on her bike and goes to work. I am not a baby, I think to myself. I helped catch dinner. There goes his mom. She's riding a bicycle to work. Tonight, when we are all home, Dad will put rice in the cooker, and Mom will fry the fish on both sides until they are crispy. I will bring out the jar of fish sauce that has flecks of chili pepper and carrots floating on top. At the table, my brothers and sisters will tell funny stories. Mom will ask about their homework. Dad will nod and smile, and eat with his eyes half closed. "Good fish," he will say to me. And I will smile and nod, and later, when we sleep, we will dream of fish in faraway ponds. Look at the fish in these ponds. And that is our story. A different pond. Well, hey halflings, thank you so much for joining me for story time today to read A Different Pond. And just talk about what it means to be an immigrant, meaning you move from a different country outside of the United States to here in the United States. Or to be a refugee, which means you go to a different country during a time when it's not safe to live in your hometown, in your country. So, yeah, it's just very eye-opening, like how hard these people have to work if they move to a different country, like the United States, just to stay alive, you know? Like I mentioned, the mom and the dad, they had to have 3 jobs total, because the dad had 2 jobs, and the mom had 1 job at least that we know of. So they have to have at least 3 jobs in order to support their family. So, and they have to go fishing just to have enough food for everybody too. It's just very eye-opening, and I just wanted us to think about that today. So, anyways, as always, if you have anything to share with me about the story, if you are an immigrant or a refugee, or if you know of one, if you're friends with one, I would love to hear about that. Yeah, in the comment section, you can tell me all about it if you wish. But until then, I will see you next time, and be safe, and take care, halflings. Bye!